Well, thank you for joining me this morning. We'll be going through an introduction to BD Research Cloud. So one last time, if you haven't created an account already, I would recommend you do so at bdresearchcloud.com. It's completely free. If you have a Flojo portal account, just sign in with the same email and password. If not, click create account and follow the instructions there. So I see there's a question in the chat, enter sign-up code. That is sometimes required for countries that are beta testing. Which country are you trying to sign up from? Brazil, right? Okay, so right now, BDRC is available to US customers and also European. We do have plans to open up in other regions, but we haven't done that just yet. We have to figure out all the paperwork and such. So right now it is restricted. Yeah, sad. I'm sorry to hear that. But you know, this is a good introduction regardless. And you can always contact your local BD rep and let them know that there's interest in Brazil to get that there. So for today's presentation, I'll first be going through a quick overview of what is BDRC, go through the internal structure, how to organize your groups and projects, and then I'll jump into the demo where we get into all the details of how to set up an account and create a shared organization, invite users, create your groups and projects, and then we'll address all the cool resources, how to upload and save your cytometers and populations and reagents, and all these come together to allow you to then create panels, create FACSDIVA experiments away from the cytometer, and also connect to Flojo analysis. Let's see. Okay. So what is BD Research Cloud? It is an online ecosystem supporting flow cytometry studies. Within BDRC, users can upload and save cytometers. These can be BD systems, but they don't have to be. So you can upload any cytometer. It can be from any vendor. Same with reagents. You can create panels using reagents from the BD catalog or enter your own reagents, and they don't have to be BD reagents, in the custom reagent section, and use those reagents that are actually in your lab to build panels with. You can manage your reagent inventory that's in your lab. You can use the spectrum viewer. You also have access to workflows. So panel creation workflows are also experimental workflows. So to keep track of who did what and when to your cells prior to acquisition. And this ensures all your data stays organized and clear. In addition, you can create FACSDIVA templates in BDRC away from the cytometer. So we definitely recommend this to give you more time to enter additional keywords or metadata to properly label your samples. By doing so ahead of acquisition, you ensure that all that information transfers into the FCS and stays linked to your data. And lastly, you can store files directly in BD Research Cloud. You can upload, organize, and share your data. And we have connectivity with Flojo software to connect your data to the analysis software. And so your data is accessible from anywhere and also makes it much easier to share with collaborators. So you're not constantly shuffling and moving data around. So we'll touch real quickly on the structure of BDRC. So within BDRC, a group represents users working together on one or more projects. So at the top level is the organization, which we'll create today. And then within the organization, there are groups. And so groups are people that work together on one or more projects. Projects are found within the group and contain all the relevant files, workflows, and data. So the data is stored within each project. Users within a group will see all projects and data from that group. So it's a way to organize who can see what within your lab. When inviting a user to your organization, they must be assigned to a group. A user can belong to one or more groups. So, you know, you can have access to everything or limit access to certain things. And there are no limits on the number of groups within an organization. So that's one layer to protect your data and determine who has access to what. So that said, with that given structure, you can decide how to organize your BD Research Cloud. If your institution signs up for BD Research Cloud, then every group would represent a lab or department, and everyone within that lab or department would have access to all your projects. So this structure is the recommended one because it makes it easier to share data across different groups. So you can, put people from different departments in your group if you're looking to share certain things. Or alternatively, you can choose to make your organization a lab, so a lab level BDRC organization. So then you'd have different groups within your lab that work on different projects. And so both are completely valid. It all comes down to how you choose to organize BDRC. All right, so that was just a quick note on the organization as background. Let's jump into BD Research Cloud. Oops. Here we go. So to log in, you just access bdresearchcloud.com and you put in your Flojo portal credentials. If you don't have any, you would just hit create account, put in your email and follow the instructions there. And then once you're signed up, you just click sign in. And the very first time that you sign up for BDRC, it creates an individual organization. So this is probably what you'll see, your name and your individual org. So this individual org is just for you. It's a private organization. You cannot invite other users to this. So this is just your personal one. To create a collaborative organization, that's one of the first things I recommend you do is you'd go to create an account. So you click your name, upper right corner, scroll down, create an organization. From here, you can see the different license types for BDRC. So this is the individual one that everyone gets for free. And there's the essentials one that allows collaboration. You can have up to 10 users compared to one within an essentials lab. So this one's completely free. I would recommend just start off here and create a pre-essentials license. There's also storage limitations depending on the license type. So as you increase to the other license type, you have more storage capacity per user. And you also have a few additional features that are only in the professional or premium licenses, such as the ability to share files outside of your organization, manage your reagent inventory is a premium feature. And then for both professional and premium, you can have recurrent workflows. So if we go ahead and click create a free organization, you would put the name of your organization, so either your institution or your lab, and then fill in the information and make sure you hit submit once you've completed that. So then once you've created your free organization, it will show up in your drop-down list. So I have many organizations, but typically you would only have your individual one and maybe one or two additional shared or collaborative organizations. So once you're in your collaborative organization, the next step I recommend you do is to create your groups and projects, because when you invite people, you'll have to assign them to a group or a project. So to do so, you just go over here to people, groups, and projects. So this first tab shows the different groups that I've created in my lab. So to create a group, I would just go up here, create a group or a project. So you could just hit create group. And these are the groups that are created. And if I click on the group itself, then I see the projects that live within that group. And so you, again, choose how to organize your projects within the groups. If a user is a part of that group, they'll be able to see everything from those projects. So once you've created groups and projects as a general structure, then I would recommend to start inviting users. So in the people users section, you can go ahead and click invite, and you just put in the email addresses of the people you choose to invite. Just putting a random email here. Then I would select which group they belong to. It could be one, but you can also add more than one. So as you click it, it sees it adds which ones you want to add that person to. And then you also set their permissions, what they're allowed to do within BDRC. So are they allowed to manage organizational level permissions? Can they manage cytometers inventory? Can they manage reagents and inventory? So there's a lot of organization level permissions here. So then you would just hit invite, And you can do multiple users at once. You would just assign them the same groups and the same permissions if you did them all at once. All right, so now that we've invited users, you can then double check to see what a person's details are. So once they've accepted the invitation, you can hit the pencil to look at their user details. You will see which permissions they have at the organization level, and then also within their group, what are they allowed to do. Just checking the chat. Any questions so far? All right, so once you've set up your groups and projects and you've invited users, you can start adding resources to use BDRC to its full advantage. So I would recommend starting with cytometers. So resources, cytometers, you click on here. And then here I can see the different cytometers that I've linked to. To upload a cytometer, just go to the upper right, hit create. And there's 3 different ways to upload the cytometer. If you own a BD cytometer, I would recommend to import a BDfax Diva file. So from Diva, you would just export the configuration file, and then you would upload it here. This ensures that all the information is correct, there's no typos, and your parameters are all labeled properly to sync up with your instrument. You would just put in the cytometer name, you can add a location to say where it is, and then there's a checkbox below. This is publicly discoverable. If you check this box, it will make the cytometer available to anyone within BDRC. To clarify, they won't have access to the cytometer configuration itself. They won't be able to change or modify your cytometer. They'll just have access to the information to use it for panel design or for FaxDiva experiment creation. So if you're a core lab and you're looking to share your cytometer configurations, I would definitely recommend to check this box. If you're a private lab and you don't want to share that information, then you don't check this box. The second option here is just that. If you want to find a cytometer that doesn't belong to you, but that you have access to and that you want to use, then you would just search that core lab, for example, the Fred Hutch. It shows me which cytometer they have, and if I have an option to connect to it, then I would click on it and hit link cytometer. So I've already linked it, and that's why it shows up over here. It's one of these public ones. So the Fred Hutch, here it is. So the public ones I've linked to show up with this big green public tag. The other ones without the tag are ones I've uploaded myself for my private lab. If we go back to the create, we'll go through the third option to create a custom cytometer. So from here, you can choose any BD cytometer as a base, and you can modify it. So for example, let's create a BD A3. I select which configuration I want to use. It pre-fills some information. If you scroll down, we've kind of given you a starting point of different lasers, powers, and mirrors and filters. So you can absolutely modify these if you have a custom BD instrument, or if you don't have a BD instrument, if you have a competitor one, you can either start BD as base and modify it, or just start from scratch. Don't use one from base, and just add the lasers and detectors one at a time. That's also an option here. So you just add a detector or add a laser. Any questions about cytometers? So far, so good. I don't see anything in the chat. So those are the 3 ways to link to a cytometer. Next, we'll go through populations. And within BDRC, this section allows users to either use a predefined definition of a cell subset. So for example, B cells that are CD19, they're CD3 negative and CD19 positive for some amount of, we don't specify the antigen density. And so you can use these literature-defined pre-specified populations, or you can choose to create your own. And the advantage here is if you always use the same set of markers to identify your cells of interest in your panels, you can just upload it and save it here, and makes it easier for panel design. So in my case, I think I've already, created a custom population down here. Yeah, EJT-reg. So let's go ahead and create EJT-reg 4. Just for fun, that's my favorite population. So EJT-reg 4. So that's the name of my population of interest. It is a human. So add markers from existing populations. So if I wanted to pull one of the existing populations, I could just look it up here. So I can start typing by typing T, I see T cells. If I put a R, I can see Tregs. So these are searching populations, or if I wanted to add markers, I would do that down here. So for example, I'll just search a population of predefined Tregs. I'll click on it, say add marker. It'll add those markers. I can also add individual markers here. So let's say CD8. It finds the CD8 from the catalog. I assign it a density. Is it negative, low, mid, or high? Let's say these are negative for CD8 because I'm interested in CD4 Tregs. I add the marker. And here you can choose to define the antigen density a little bit further. So for my Tregs, I'm going to say they're high CD3, high CD4, FOXP3, it's kind of low expressing, so mid. CD25 is definitely high, and CD8 negative. So that's one way to identify cells. And now when I save it, I'll be able to pull up this information during panel creation. So that's nice. You can also save like a backbone of common markers. So let's go ahead and click save. So I created my custom EJTreg. It's now down here. I can edit it. I can delete it. You get the idea. Any questions about populations? All right, next we'll move on to reagents. So when you're creating a panel, the list of markers that are presented to you come from these two tabs, either the BD catalog tab that lists essentially all of the antibodies and reagents available from the BD catalog, or the custom reagent. And so this is where you'd be able to enter non-BD reagents that are in your lab. You can create these custom reagents one at a time with a similar form. You would just put the name of the antigen, so CD3, it's a human. Select the brand, so you can select an existing brand, or you can scroll at the bottom to add a new brand. I'm just going to call it the in-house brand that I made myself through conjugation. And then I have to select a fluorochrome. So this is the only restriction, that you have to choose a fluorochrome that we've already profiled within BDRC. The good news is that we're in the process of profiling a lot of non-BD fluorochromes to give you full access to all the reagents. So right now the list is mostly the BD fluorochromes at the moment, but in the next couple of weeks, this should be expanding as well. So if you type it in and it becomes a selectable choice, then you know it's allowed. If you write something else and it doesn't show up, no results found, then you know that this reagent won't be available to you during panel creation. If you wanted to see a list of fluorochromes that are available, you can click on the tutorials. So this down here, there's a little scroll button. If you click on it, it gives you a little help document for the different sections that you're in. So right now, because I'm in the custom reagent section, by clicking the help button, the content updates based on which page I'm on. So it gives me information about this section, and then here's the list of available floors at the moment. But like I said, we're about to expand it very shortly. Any other questions about reagents? So you can choose to, I'm going to cancel this. You can choose to add your reagents one at a time, or you can bulk upload them. So by exporting this reagent list, it exports your current ones into a CSV, but then you can add to it like a worksheet that you would just add different columns for additional reagents, and then you would bulk upload them all at once for easier upload. So you just export the template, add your entries, and then import it. So yeah, so the combination of these two tabs, the BD catalog and the custom reagent, is what is going to populate your available reagents for you during panel creation. So so I have this APC tetramer ABC that we'll touch upon during panel creation that's in my custom reagent. Other tabs are the spectrum viewer. So these, it populates from your custom reagents and the BD reagent catalog list, and then you can select a reagent by pushing the plus sign. It then populates, and you can see its spectra based on your cytometers that you've already linked up to. So you can see exactly if this is a good choice for your cytometer configuration or not. So by clicking on the different lasers, it shows you primary emission. So here's CD3 per CPSI 5.5. When the graph is filled, it shows me the primary emission is off the blue. When I click off of another laser, it shows me the spillover that's likely to have given the laser power and excitation from other lasers. And you can also choose to look at different configurations of cytometers if you've uploaded that information. Last one is my inventory. So this is a premium feature. So if you're on an essentials license right now, you won't be seeing this tab, but if you upgrade to the premium license, you'll be able to see it. So this is where you can keep track of actual reagents that are in your lab with vial quantities. I should say that BDRC has regular releases. So every quarter or 3 months or so, we release a new version that has more functions and improvements. And one of the upcoming improvements is that we're adding a titration field. So you'll have the ability to add your titers to your reagents within this inventory section. You'll also notice that there's these little linking icons. So if they're populated, they turn blue. So these gray ones are empty. The blue ones, if I click on it, this is just a way to quickly link two items together within BDRC. So I clicked on the link of this reagent and it's saying it's linked to this PDF, and this PDF is says it's a titration of that reagent. So by clicking on it, it brings me to my file explorer of that file, and I can click view PDF and it will show me information that I've uploaded on this reagent. All right, going back to reagents, I believe that's all I had to say about this section. So the 4 tabs. Any questions about reagents or the linking feature? All right, moving on. So we have experiments and panels. Let's go ahead and create a panel. So once you've created a panel, it'll populate here. So this shows a completed panel. You have your custom panels. And then if you scroll below, we have BD defined panels. So these are pre-optimized panels you can click on and view information about them, which cytometer they were first created on. You can choose to order the reagents as a full list. You can click on it. It pulls up the reagents from that pre-optimized panel and you can place an order. Or alternatively, you can use it as a base and tweak it for the cytometer that's available to you. So use this panel as base as an option. I click it. I'm going to modify which cytometer I want to use it on. Instead of a Celesta, I don't have a Celesta, but I do have an A5. So I'll select the A5 that's available to me. I'll select the configuration. I'll rename this panel. You can select what group and what panel, and then you can choose to either just keep the list of antigens. You don't really care about the clones or the exact fluorochromes I was optimized with. You just want the antigen list. Or if you do want to keep the panel as is and see how well it fits, you would just click those options, press continue, and move on. So here populates the fields. You're on step 2 of panel creation. This is where you would define your antigens. It's been pre-filled for you because you selected use a panel as base. But you can also add to it. You can delete from it. Right now, CD19 and 20, I'm going to choose to put them together in an exclusion so that I'm creating a dump channel. If for whatever reason I'm not interested in these markers, I want to do a negative selection of a population, I can tell BDRC that I want to put these together in the same channel. If I have clone restrictions, right now I chose to keep the original clones, so I pre-populated them, but I can also decide to change the clones. I can add a viability dye if there wasn't one in the panel. I can restrict which reagents I can use for the panel. And it also tells me how many fluors I'm currently using on the new cytometer that I chose. So right now I'm using 9 fluors out of the 30. So let's go ahead and add a few markers. I'm going to select human. Let's go to trusty CD8. I'm going to select it, add the antigen. And oh, was it already there? I didn't notice. And so here you have the option to also define antigen density. So let's say for the cells of interest here, you can choose to do low, mid, high, or negative. Again, this is optional. If you don't know this, you don't have to fill it out. You can leave it as unknown. So this was step 2. Step 1 was selecting the cytometer. Step 2 is selecting which markers or antigens you want to include in your panel. By hitting complete step, this is where you go to pair your panel, your fluorochromes. Because we chose to use a panel as base, it's already performed these pairings for me. But if for whatever reason I don't like this pre-optimized panel, I want to swap things around, let's go ahead and unpair all. So now it gives me a separated list of antigens and fluorochromes. By clicking on the antigen, here, I'm going to scroll down. So by scrolling down, it pops out to the side. So by clicking the first marker, CD3, I see a populated list of fluorochromes. And this list comes from the BD catalog and also the list of custom reagents that you've entered. So you can scroll through, see how it looks on your cytometer. If you see something you like, you can hit pair. And there's different ways to sort these antigens. You can sort them by name, antigen density if you put that information, or fluorochrome availability. So fluorochrome availability shows me, and you can toggle up or down. This is available in the fewest colors, and these are going to be available in the most colors. So if I start with the viability dye, I'm just going to assign it a random pairing, and then you would go through and decide. Once you do make a pairing, it becomes permanent on the spectrum viewer. So here's CD3, if I choose to hide it, and then the viability dye, which is elsewhere. So you can choose to view it or hide it, but once you've paired it, it becomes static here on the graph, so that as you're adding to it, you can see how your fluorochromes are interacting with the choices you've made. So I'm going to continue pairing, and also as I'm pairing, things that I've already paired, the exact matches become hashed. And then if I'm using, if something else is not an exact match, but it's using the same primary filter, it'll also give it a little red box saying that you already have something in that channel. So right now I'm just going to continue and do random pairings just for the sake of time, but usually you would make more careful decisions. Here the lasers can also be sorted by name, brightness, and laser. So if you have something dim here, you would pair it with something bright. And then if I don't want to see these hashed and red boxes, I can choose to hide them and just show me what's available based on my pairings. All right, so once you've completed this, you can examine your panel, see if you're happy with it. You can make some changes, unpair them individually and repair them iteratively until you're happy with your panel. And from that point on, you would continue to step 4. Step 4 shows based on the pairings that you've made, like CD3, BV7, 11, what are your choices for purchasing? So there's different test size and also different clones that might be available to you. So this is where you would scroll down. We show you the list price, and if you have the inventory feature, it also shows you if it is in your inventory. So I did not select anything from my inventory, I don't believe, but you can view it here, and also in the previous step there would be a little check mark saying that yes, you already have this reagent in your lab. So once you've selected your clones and your test sizes, you go to complete step. And then this is, so at this point, your panel is finalized and you're going to the purchasing list, so shopping list. So if you already have some of these items in your inventory, you would just delete them from your shopping list. They populate down here. If you forgot or did one by accident, you just add it back. And once you've finalized your workflow, then it brings you to the final page where you can either add to BD cart. If you have that functionality, it brings you directly to the cart and brings those reagents along with you. If you can't order directly through BD website because of your institution, you can also download either the entire panel or just the shopping list, or you can email it to your purchasing person. And alternatively, you can also reach out to a BD rep by requesting a quote. So BDRC knows your location based on your sign-in. So by requesting a quote, it'll just send the email to the right person at BD. Any questions about panel creation? So I kind of jumped ahead and I selected start a panel from base, but you don't have to choose a panel to start with. You can create one from scratch. So once I've created a panel, it comes and lives here. So this is the one I've just created. I can easily reorder it by clicking here. It pre-populates and then it'll bring me to that last step again to either download or add to cart. I can use this panel as base again and make another just small modifications. If you have the inventory feature, once you've received your order of antibodies, you can easily add these to your inventory to keep track of what's in your lab. Yeah, so those are your custom panels that you've created, and then the BD ones that come preloaded. If you wanted to start from scratch, in this case, you would go to Research, Workflows, and Panels, and you would hit Create a Panel. So this would bring you through the same process we just did, but instead of pre-filling information, it would be blank. So let's go. I'm going to create a new one. So assign a project, and then I'm going to press Start. So same process, you select the cytometer. Next step, it brings you here, but it's blank, it's not pre-filled with your reagents. So then you would just go select your target species. I'm going to do EJ Treg 4, so custom populations here. I'm going to load more. So these are my custom ones that I just created. Let's see, load more. So here's the custom Treg population I just created. I can add that here. So then it comes pre-filled with the antigen density. Let's say I want a tetramer as well. So this comes from the custom reagents section. And so then the next steps are very similar to the ones I just went through. So they come unpaired. You would just make the pairings based on either your antigen density. You can sort it high to low, low to high, pair that with brightness, low to high, high to low, and continue on just like I showed you. Any questions about panels? So now we'll jump into experiments, how to create FACSDIVA experiment away from the cytometer. So I'll go ahead and click Resources, Experiments, and if I want to create one, I would come up here, or you can always duplicate an existing one or edit an existing one to export it. But I will create a new one from scratch. So what is the name of my experiment? Which project does it belong to? Let's call it this one. And which cytometer? So I'll just pick my handy dandy A5 with this configuration, and then select which DIVA version is on my cytometer. If you do have a plate loader, then just click this checkbox and it'll bring you to the plate loading page. After hitting Add Experiment, you're brought to these 4 tabs. The first one is the plate. So the first thing you would do is select a plate. I'm going to pick a 96 well U bottom, and I like to use the autofill selected wells option. So first I select the wells that my samples are in. And I click autofill selected, and then I tell it what pattern I want my specimens to go. So in this case, I have 1 specimen per row going 4 wells down. So I'm going to say the specimens are going down 4 wells per specimen, and I want to call it patient ID prefix. So I hit autofill. So patient ID 1, 2, 3, it pre-fills it for me here. Of note, we allow adding of specimens, experimental samples, when it comes time to creating your compensation controls. We recommend you still do that on the instrument because we want users to connect to CSNT beads and application settings. So we would do that after adding comp controls, but you can add all your experimental samples here in BDRC and label them appropriately. So this just gave them a generic specimen name. Once I'm ready, I can hit continue. Would you like to save? Yes. All right, now is time to apply the label. So this is the panel. And the nice thing about BDRC is if I've already created a panel, let's select all first. And if I've created a panel and it's in BDRC, I can go ahead and select it. So this panel I've created on the BDFACS Symphony A5, I can click it and say apply panel. So right now it's letting me know which parameters it's assigning to the different markers that are in my panel. And I will say apply. Now reagents have been applied. Are you sure you want to proceed? Yes. Let's see, which one is it missing? It looks like it's missing a few. So then I would just add FOXP3, and then what was the other one? BV421 hasn't been added. So it's a nice, easy way. Because it assigned the viability data. So that's probably my fault from not being a good panel designer by just clicking around, but I'm just going to assign these randomly for now. Typically, if you assign if you design your panel appropriately and there's not an overlap in the same channel, these will get sorted appropriately and you won't have to do it manually. So by hitting apply, it puts these in the correct spot. And if I want to get rid of channels that aren't labeled, I can just say hide unused parameters. So this hide function is just for visual. It doesn't get rid of these parameters at this point. In the next version of BDRC, we are adding a cytometer settings section as well, where you can choose to truly remove parameters from your FACSDIVA experiment. So right now, once you've added your labels, you can proceed to the next section, which is keywords. And this is nice that for each subject, you can choose how many keywords to add. And it's a spreadsheet-like functionality where you can copy paste from an existing spreadsheet and copy all at once. You don't have to do it one cell at a time. So that's really nice to ensure that everything, all your information and metadata is getting entered in your experiment. And then the next step is plots. You can pre-select certain plots to show up on your FACSDIVA experiment. You can have an N by N, or if you want custom ones from your panel, you can do that. So add graph. And so it just pre-populates some graphs for your global worksheet in FACSDIVA. So once you're done adding all your information, all you have to do is hit export experiment. It creates this zip file, and then once you're on Diva, you would just go file, import the file, and all your information transfers over. So if your cytometer is connected to the internet, I would recommend just connect to BDRC from your cytometer and download it there. Alternatively, if it's not connected, then you can always just put it on a flash drive and walk it over. Any questions about the experiments? Let's see. So other functionality that I have not gone over yet. So the file explorer here under research, if you click the file explorer, it shows all the projects that are in your lab. And if you click on them, then you can see the data that's actually been uploaded and stored. So here's a workspace, a FlowJo workspace, some FCS files. You can have some PDFs that are stored up here, and all these contain that linking feature. So if you want to link this experiment or this PDF to a reagent or to something else, you can easily do that by just clicking the link, say create link, and then click to the other resource that you want to link the two, and then they'll stay connected for easy access. Other things that you can do with these files: delete, download. If you have, this is emailing the file to yourself. If you have the premium license, you can share this with a user outside of your organization. If you don't have the premium license, you're restricted to, you can only share with people that are within your organization. And then you can also lock certain file types. So if you're actively working on something and you don't want other users accessing it while you're working on it, you can choose to lock it as well. Last thing within BDRC before I jump over to FlowJo is to show you the other type of workflow. So there's two types of workflows you can create. One is the panel creation. The other one is an experimental creation. And I'll just show you an example of a completed workflow, what it looks like. So I find that's the easiest way to demonstrate it. So this is a workflow that I created. I added these steps: thaw cells, count cells, resuspend them. So it's essentially a broken down protocol that's actionable steps. So I would create this template, and then as either myself or someone else from my lab actually performs the steps, they go through and click that they've done it. There's a timestamp of who did it and when. They can also upload relevant files for the steps that they're on. You can put in mandatory fields like QC lots, or any other kind of information that you want to keep track of on a daily basis. And as you're creating the template, you can choose to assign certain steps to people as well. And this is true for both the experimental workflow or the panel creation. So let's say you've started a panel, you're up at step 3, where you've done your pairings and you're unsure if it's a good panel or not. You can assign it to your boss or your colleague for them to take a look and see if they like your panel or not. And then you can also have recurrent workflow. So if you're in a core lab and you're always performing a daily startup or a daily clean, and you want to keep track of the pass-fail status of your CSNT or upload your files, then you could just log into BDRC and you can see exactly which cytometers were already run, which ones still need to be run, that kind of deal. All right. So that's it for BDRC itself. Now I'll just jump over to FlowJo and show you how it works with BDRC. So here's my FlowJo. I logged in using the portal account, but if you don't have a portal account, that's fine. You can still use your serial number license or your dongle. It will still connect to BDRC. The places where there are links to BDRC. So this is a generic button here. If I click it, it just opens a tab in my a new tab in the browser to have me access it. Alternatively, I can add samples from BD Research Cloud. So in this case, the workflow would be acquire samples, upload your samples to BDRC, and then you would fetch them from FlowJo. And so the way you would upload your FCS files, you would navigate to the project that you want to upload them, project files, and you just hit this upload button. So upload to project, workflow or folder. You would select this. You can drag and drop entire folders here of FCS files, and then it would get stored within BDRC. And then to connect to FlowJo, you would say add samples from BD Research Cloud. This is nice because then you can access your data from anywhere. So once you've clicked that add sample from BD Research Cloud, it opens this dialog to ask you which organization do you want to pull your data from, which projects do you want to pull your data from, and then it shows you which FCS files are available to you. So by clicking add, it downloads them locally and then keeps them in a cached register on your local computer. So it only downloads them the first time. After that, FlowJo connects to your local version of it. But if you make changes to this workspace, then you would just do file, save as, save this workspace to BDRC. And then the same dialog will open up asking you, where do you want to save it? You're just going to hit cancel. And then next time, if you want to go back to this workspace that you've worked on, you would just do open the workspace from BDRC and you would go fetch it and it would open back up. You'd have all your analysis. If you want to upload an existing workspace that you've already analyzed and all the FCS files, I would recommend you just open it from FlowJo, do a save workspace to BDRC. And if the FCS files are not already on BDRC, it will upload them at the same time. So definitely if you have an existing workspace, just go through the FlowJo interface and everything will sync up and load up simultaneously. Any questions about FlowJo? Trying to think if I glossed over anything else. Oh, maybe, so there's your organization profile. You have information about your license type, and then you have different settings that you can determine for your organization. So as the organization owner, you determine if lot numbers are required for your inventory entries, if you need to require unique workflow names, if you allow workflows to be unpublished to make changes to them after they've been completed. So there are additional safeties there. In terms of product security, we do have a white paper that shows that all your data is stored in the Amazon Web Services server. Everything's encrypted and safe. We are happy to provide that white paper that outlines the security features for your IT. Other things, so we have here a collaborate, a little chat option for anyone that's in your group to talk to. The about here shows release notes, which version you're on. So we're going to be releasing version 4 very shortly at the end of March, and you'll notice those new features and improved functionality. And if ever you have help or need help, you can help here, help desk, you would just email flojo.com or use the telephone system. We definitely encourage the email over phone, especially since a lot of people are working remotely. I guess the one thing that I did not go through is resources for training. Whoops, that is not flojo.com. Okay, so if you go to the Flojo webpage, in the Learn tab, there's different resources there. So webinars where you're at today, if you click there, sign up for emails. Definitely, we recommend you sign up for the email list. Intro to BDRC, where you're at today. So you can sign up for upcoming webinars. If you want to view this one again or any other, you can go to the Explore previously recorded ones. And so you can find Intro to BDRC here, but then you can also find other Flojo and other related webinars that were given. And alternatively, so that was in the webinar section. If you go to Flojo University here, by clicking here, there's different resources for the different product lines. If you go to BD Research Cloud, and then you have short bite-sized videos. If you forget how to create an account or how do you want to define your cytometer, how to apply a license. So they're just, 1 to 2 minute videos that highlight those things if you've forgotten them. And then the tutorials down here, definitely, if you're looking for more information about the page that you're on, it might give you a little refresher to help you along. And then on the main web page, when you first log in the tutorial, there's a little intro video that starts up. I recommend you watch it. Kind of gets you oriented, as we did today, about the different features and functionalities. So that's about it. That's what I had to discuss today. I'm happy to take any questions. Unfortunately, yeah, they'll have to go in the chat since there's no unmute function. So I'll stick around for a couple of minutes if anyone wants to ask any questions by chat, but if not, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for attending, and I hope you give BD Research Cloud a shot. We are taking user feedback, so please email me at any time if you have if you're looking for a different feature that we don't currently have, or you want to improve an existing one. I'll just put up my contact information again. So my name, Emilie.Jalbert@bd.com. Feel free to email me, or if you want a private demo for your institution, we're up for that as well to help you get started and sorted for your research needs. Thank you so much.